This week, fighting out of the Red Bull corner, weighing in at 66 kilograms or 145 pounds, is Daniel the Honey Badger Ricciardo. He's fighting against, in the green corner, with a net worth of whatever daddy's money has in his pocket at that given point in time. It's Lance, hasn't got a nickname because he's not cool, Stroll. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a fantastic fight this weekend. Wow. If you annoy the Honey Badger, how on earth have you messed up that badly? Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the 107 podcast with myself, Jacob, and my co-host Ash. Of course, we're here to review the Chinese Grand Prix, and we had to come up with an intro. Let's be honest.
How long did it take you to come up with that? That's
30 seconds, but it took me less than 3 hours to write down the post-it notes. So, yeah. So that's obviously the big thing that came out of the weekend is that Lance Stroll can't drive. Kinda. Did you see? We'll talk about this at first, and then we'll talk about the race in general, purely because of the intro. But did you see? If you're unaware of the incident, for those listening, or maybe if you only watched the highlights,
Who was that aimed at?
I don't know. Just in general, if you watch the highlights, you know, not the full race. So if you don't know, Lance Stroll forgot how to do a safety car restart, thinks that he can jump up three cars in one corner, under the safety car, can't happen, and during a safety car restart, forgot how brakes worked as well, essentially, and crashed into the back of Daniel Ricciardo, who also crashed into the back of Oscar Piastri. Oscar carried on with significant damage, to be fair, to his rear diffuser. Daniel Ricciardo had to retire after a pretty strong weekend, it has to be said. And Lance managed to carry on, but with a time penalty. So yeah, this was a very bad incident, let's be honest. It was very stupid, completely unnecessary, and very avoidable. What are your thoughts on it, Ash?
I just think people are just blowing it out of proportion.
Do you think people are blowing it out of proportion purely because not a lot of people particularly like Lance?
Yeah, and a lot of people like Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, that might play into it as well. To be fair, I did like Oscar Piastri's comments on it, which was, well, everyone else managed to brake for the corner.
Technically, they did actually. Fernando didn't.
Fernando didn't. So take that, yeah. Oscar. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Look. Was it Lance's fault? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it annoying, especially if you're Daniel, where kind of do need to prove yourself and show, you asked for the new chassis and he was having a strong weekend.
He's doing really well, yeah.
But it's just gone way out of proportion. I also don't think Lance helped himself by.
That's where it kicks in. If Lance had just turned around and gone, yeah, you know what? After seeing,
they're locked up.
Yeah, after seeing the incident as well, just be like, look. I'm sorry, it's my bad. He doesn't even have to say, like, oh, my brakes were cold or whatever. He just has to hold his hands up and go, my bad. Okay, I'm sorry. But he didn't.
Yeah, so that didn't really help him. But, yeah, I forgot what I was going to say now. I was just likening it to a similar situation. Do you remember when Vettel rear-ended Verstappen in Silverstone?
Yeah.
The hate towards Vettel wasn't there as much because it was Sebastian Vettel, right?
Yeah, so, yeah. It's but still, it was a very odd incident which just shouldn't have happened at all.
Yeah,
that's the thing, and it could have been avoided had Stroll just said, "Look, I'm sorry." So, yeah, but the weekend was obviously a sprint weekend as well. Let's crack on and talk about the rest of the weekend. I enjoyed the race, both races. I thought they were reasonably interesting. The sprint race, not so much compared to the actual race, but I still enjoyed the races.
I enjoyed the sprint, didn't enjoy the main race.
Oh, okay. So we had slightly differing opinions. For me, I woke up at stupid o'clock in the morning to watch Lando Norris lead for about 300 meters. That really annoyed me. So that's probably why I didn't like the sprint as much as the actual race, to be honest with you. Well
done for Lando and McLaren for performing well on a track they said they weren't going to perform well at.
Yeah, on tracks where they say, oh, we're not going to do very well, they end up doing really well. And on tracks where you expect them to do well, They don't. It's
Which I
really
don't get
odd.
because China has fast flowing corners, so I didn't understand
It's the
where they
long
were going.
straights.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
I don't didn't really understand where it was coming from. But yeah, well done. Put it on pole in the sprint race. Could have been quicker. Um, what a top three: Lando, Lewis, and Fernando. Man, wow.
They're a really good top three.
That was nice to see. Three different drivers, three different cars, and then yeah, Lewis just had a mega start, pushed Lando out wide, and Lando dropped back, and that was his sprint race over. I mean, he would have got taken by Verstappen eventually.
Eventually, yeah. I do think it's very important to remember that Lewis is phenomenal in the rain, unbelievable in the rain. So even though it was only for like literally not even a corner that Lando was in the lead, it would have been nicer to see him fight a little bit more, be in the lead for a little bit longer. Yeah, that's my only thing.
Well, I looked at both the onboard, and Lewis lost his car a little bit, and Lando reacted to that. So I don't think it was as much he wasn't trying. I think if he had stayed where he was, then Lewis would have hit into him, and it might have been a completely different race.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
Yeah.
I say watch the onboards because yeah, Lewis lost it a little bit. I think Lando reacted to that.
But I think starting from P2 in China is actually a really good position to start from. So there is also that as well, like because of the way that the corner is laid out and because of the track layout and stuff. P2 is actually a really strong position to go for P1 at the beginning of the race anyway. So there's also that to take into account too. But yeah, sprint quali was pretty interesting. Lando 1.2 seconds quicker than anyone else. Ridiculous in the rain. But then obviously the contrast as well of Lewis being up at the front during the sprint and then all the way at the back for the actual race was insane. Fair play to him for getting points though as well. That was pretty good. Hats off to
I
him.
do not understand what's going on with that car.
No idea, honestly, zero idea what on earth is going on. But George doesn't seem to be complaining as much.
True. George seems to be a little bit more consistent with it as well. It's like Lewis has the highest highs and the lowest lows, where George is just like
consistent,
it.
ultimately consistent. Yeah. So unless it's the last lap and Sainz is in the lead, actually no, then he's consistent. So yeah,
you proved your point.
So I think he's just more consistent, I guess. But I mean, let's be honest, if you had to put your money on one of them, it's going to be Lewis Hamilton. So you know, but yeah, so Mercedes had a okay-ish weekend, all things considered, but it's just obviously nowhere near the highs that they are used to. Nope. You were going to say something. You said something to me just before we started recording about Red Bull, didn't you? About the start of the race. Do you want to repeat that?
No.
No. You don't want to repeat
that. Have we moved on to talking about the race now?
I'm just jumping through teams, just in general, to be honest with you. We really should have structured this a little bit better.
Yeah. Oh, if we're talking about the race, then yeah, usually I wait a lap. This time I waited a corner, and then I went back to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the battles behind first were pretty good for the race, to be fair. I enjoyed the race.
Yeah, it was. Fernando had an interesting strategy.
Really odd, but interesting at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, Lewis fighting through. Lando did quite well. Charles seems to be slowly turning it around a little bit and had a bit of a tasty fight, didn't he, with Carlos in the sprint?
Yeah, that was really good.
I'll talk about it after the race. Yeah, but... So I'm going to say this because everything I've said has been wrong so far. So if I say this, I hope it's... I think if Red Bull dominate in 2026, Liberty will sell Formula One because I think they think that like we can't deal with this anymore. They will lose fans. The hardcore fans are going to stop watching because it's Max winning
because they already are.
Right, and they've kind of saturated what they can get from Drive to Survive and expansion. So there's going to be a point where it's like people are not watching. That people aren't watching, they're not buying. Right, and also F1 TV's gone up, Sky's gone up. I'm assuming all the TV packages have gone up, and if people aren't buying, sponsors aren't going to be interested anymore. Now that's a long, long way away, but I think people have written off next year, but they're only going to stay because the year after is a regulation change with the engines, and another tinfoil hat. Lewis has gone to Ferrari, so they're like, can we change something just to fucking get Max some challenges, right? And it might be that. But I think if they see another domination with new regs and new engines, I like, there's just no point. There's nothing at stake anymore.
Well, let's be honest. From that perspective, Liberty Media are a company who have to satisfy shareholders, right? And if the value of F1 is at its peak, and you know that the value of something is about to drop off astronomically, you cash out while you're ahead, type thing. So there was also a rumor, do you not remember, at the beginning of the year about apparently a Saudi company or like the Saudi royal family, or I can't remember what it was, but something to do with Saudi. They were considering buying Formula One for like 20 billion or something like that. So that could happen.
I'm sure they'll make their money back.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, but like the other thing is, and again, it's not Red Bull Max's fault. I'm not blaming them.
No.
I'm just saying, even the cost cap has not worked to what it's doing.
It's not done the right thing, has it?
Not done the right thing, and maybe the cost cap should be looked at in like a sliding scale. So like Williams should be able to spend more money, because I think, was it James Vowles was saying, we don't have the. It's not like we don't have the money to invest in like new facilities. Like we can't invest.
Yeah,
in new
now
facilities.
they can no longer invest. That's the problem.
So it's not even like, okay, we know it's an engineering sport. We're not even helping the engineers try and balance this out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it was China and Japan. These are early morning races. I mean, obviously, I'll go back to watching it normally for Europe.
Yeah,
but if it's the same thing every time, like, there's nothing at stake. I don't care what they say about second and all these battles between Carlos and Charles and all that. There's nothing at stake. There's nothing. There's not. You can't get invested into it.
I love positivity on this podcast. So,
and then when like Lewis goes and Fernando goes, there's gonna be like very few drivers who like can carry the sport. You know, if Max says, "Look, I'm going to leave early," and now it might be different when Max leaves because we can see what he's doing in the car compared to Sergio. But
so that reminds me as well. There is potentially a Sergio Perez to Mercedes and Carlos Sainz to Red Bull type move, allegedly, from what I've heard from a source. It's on the table. That's why Sergio's contract talks are taking so long. Apparently, that's what's on the table.
Did you just see this one image of Helmut Marko, Toto Wolff? Right, because people do that. There's an image going around.
There is an image, yes. However,
Sergio talking to Helmut and Toto. I think
I've heard from a semi-reliable source, and I will stand by that source that is currently. It is not that photo or something on X or Twitter.
Okay.
It is.
Is this your vets, brothers,
sisters, friends? Yeah. I'm So that's apparently why the Perez contract talks have taken a little bit longer.
Why?
But also to go backwards.
Why would Red Bull? Okay. Let's break that down, right? Why would Red Bull want Carlos Sainz?
Because Carlos Sainz.
But why would Red Bull want Carlos Sainz? They have a number one driver in Max.
Yeah.
They don't want to disrupt it. Sergio is coming P2, P3 at least.
Yeah.
Why do you want to disrupt it when Carlos is going to come in and he's going to want equal treatment, fair treatment?
To quote the great Sebastian Vettel, but satisfaction. They're not getting 1-2s every weekend. They know, and this is where I was going to interject a little bit with what you were saying about how Red Bull are dominating. I think they're starting to get a little bit worried about McLaren and Ferrari.
No.
And the reason
I don't think so.
From what I've seen from like media and stuff like that, and also the data that Ferrari have been pumping out and stuff like that, I think they're a little bit worried that they're going to be pushed towards the end of the year. So we might have a similar situation to what we had towards the end of the last generation of cars, where, Verstappen was knocking on the door of Mercedes at the end of the last regulations. We might have Ferrari and McLaren knocking on the door at the end of this year for the last year of the regulations as well. So they could be looking to lock in a driver who they may feel is potentially more consistent and better than Sergio. That's why they could be looking at bringing him in.
But that makes no sense because there's no real change for the regulations next year. They'll probably dominate again.
You say
So
that, but like I said, like these cars are being upgraded and changed all the time. So, to play devil's advocate, what if randomly, well, not randomly, but after a long time, Ferrari come in with actually a pretty level car, and now they've got Lewis Hamilton behind the wheel with Charles Leclerc. If you pick Max and Sergio over Lewis and Charles, I would question you a little bit. In equal machinery, I would question you a little bit.
that's a fair point, but I don't. Max Verstappen won the sprint race, which was 18 laps.
Yeah.
Something? Well, like 14 seconds.
Yeah, I know, it's insane. But
So
you get my point, though, right? You
I
can
get
see
your
my
point.
point.
I can see your point. No, it's a valid point, and I think it would make sense if we were in 2025.
Yeah.
But I just don't see, with the lack of regulation change, I just don't see it happening. And if I was Carlos,
I get you.
I would go to Audi,
Mhm.
settle down in Audi, right? And then when the new regulations come in, then he'll probably be the number one driver.
But if you're Carlos
how it
Sainz and you have the opportunity to drive the fastest car on the grid by a country mile at the moment, you'd probably take it compared to being a, more than likely, backmarker team.
Okay, but what does it do for Carlos's stock if Max Verstappen does what he's doing to Sergio Perez?
He's still finishing P2, P3 every race compared to 16th, 17th.
But what if he's finishing P2, P3 by like 14, 15 seconds, right? They're like, well, is Carlos really the driver we think he is when his Max Verstappen is demolishing him? Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen.
No, I know.
All I'm saying is, like, if he goes, well, no, I want to be in the quickest car, he's in the quickest car and his teammate is beating him by like 10, 15 seconds. His teammate puts on pole every single time.
I do get you.
Why spend all of this money on Carlos Sainz when we've got a ton of youngsters? We've got Nico Hulkenberg. We've got a few other drivers that we could put into that.
I completely see your point. It's a very valid side of the argument. But if you think about it like this, you have to remember that the psychology or like the mental state of every single driver, maybe not one or two of them, but every single driver on that grid says to themselves every single time they step in the car, I am the best, I can win, I can do this. It is their elite mentality. That is the way that they are hardwired. They have been winning in karting, they've been winning in F2, they've been winning in F3, and now they got to Formula 1 and they have the chance to prove that they are the best ever. They will have that hunger and drive. So if you're Carlos Sainz and you have the opportunity to prove that you are the best in the best car, it's reasonably tempting to take it. Or, like I said, do you go to probably a backmarker team? Admittedly, you can probably build something there and you could take a gamble or a chance. However, 2-year contract for Red Bull over a 3-year contract maybe with Sauber or Audi. I know which one I'm taking.
Makes sense, but
unless Audi are paying a stupid amount of money, which they could be.
Yeah. Also, I'd just say look at Valtteri.
Yeah.
Valtteri, like, I know their regulation changes, but Valtteri left the quickest car because it's just like, I'm not going to beat Lewis Hamilton. I just can't.
Did he leave, or was he kicked out? Essentially, told we don't want you anymore.
Oh, who knows, right?
Yeah, there it is. So, but
why was he kicked out? If we say that, why was he kicked out?
Because they thought that George was a better driver. He's also a lot younger.
So he's in a car that can win races. I've got that elite mentality.
Yeah.
And yet, still, people did not think he was good enough because Lewis handily beating him.
I know. I completely.
That's what I'm saying.
However,
that's what I'm saying.
However, Carlos won't know until he gets comfortable with the car and goes in and tries to beat Verstappen in equal machinery.
When was he with Max Verstappen?
Toro Rosso. It would have been their first or second year. I think first or second year.
Carlos Sainz Jr.
2013.
So 2017. So he's with Toro Rosso, 2015 to 2017.
Oh, 2015.
Where where I say he partnered with Max Verstappen. That's when Daniel Kvyat went to Red Bull. Sainz finished his debut season with Max 15th, scoring 18 points to teammate Verstappen's 49. Okay.
Wasn't that the year that Max also? No, that was the year after Max won a race in a Toro Rosso.
And then and then 2016, Max was promoted. So if he's like, unless he feels like he's got better since then, he kind of already knows Max has the beating of him. But we shall see. We shall see.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
But I've been like wrong ever since the 2024 season started. So I'll probably be wrong about this. And yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Cool.
We'll wait and see. I think, the contracts aren't locked in just yet. So let's wait and see what happens. Because
this
silly season
is how
brings around
interesting the
silly
race
things.
was. This is how interesting the race was.
Yeah, let's maybe go back to the race.
Talk about contracts.
Like I said, I enjoyed the race a decent amount. I thought it was good. I'd maybe give it like a 3.6, 3.7 out of 5 type thing. Like 3.7-ish stars. I thought it was good enough. We had a couple of incidents, like we had Valtteri. By the way, when Valtteri had to retire the car because his engine blew up, right? It took them ages to get a safety car out. Did you think that as well, or like because
Did they go virtual safety car?
Yeah, but it took a long time to get the virtual safety car out. Like a really long time. All it took for one of those drivers was just to lock up, and he smashes into the back of the car on the sidelines. Like it was still like he wasn't like out of harm's way type thing. I felt like it took them a long time to get that safety car or even virtual safety car out.
Interesting.
Just I don't know. Virtual safety car they could have just easily deployed, done, but they didn't. It's very odd and unsafe as well.
I always we'll go back to what we said about where was it? I can't remember that the race, even though we get for the penalties, the race directors should, like every notable incident, should have a reason why they did it. So this happened with Bottas's car in this lap, and we were talking about this, and we're doing this, and then we decided on this lap to do this, and we decided on that lap to do that. So just shows can have accountability, but
yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But yeah, so we had that, and then we had some decent strategy and battles from Fernando Alonso. Very odd strategy.
We had K-Mag taking out Tsunoda.
That was bad.
Both racing bulls. It's a tough weekend. That was K-Mag should not be making this kind of moves.
No, the move was okay. It was not giving enough space on corner exit, but that was only because he lost the car halfway through the corner.
Yeah,
it was a sloppy mistake. Very sloppy mistake from him, I'm afraid. Sorry, Kevin, love you. But so that was disappointing at the very least, especially for Yuki, who had such a great weekend last race, but didn't really find his footing this race, did he? It wasn't up to scratch, was he? So it'll be, I tell you what, with the new chassis and stuff like that. Although, to be fair, Daniel may need a new bloody chassis after the shunt he got. It'll be very interesting to see how things go in Miami, because that's obviously the next race in the calendar, which is not this weekend, but next weekend. But yeah, no, going backwards, like, I think that, like, yeah, they had a very painful weekend. And you mentioned Kevin, who did not do very well, but then had a very interesting battle for 16th with Lance Stroll, which is wild. However,
I know.
Nico did very well, bringing home a point for Haas. I think he smashed it.
Yeah, and he qualified well in the sprint.
Yeah, did really well. So can't knock Nico at all.
If I'm Audi, I'm looking at Nico, German driver as well.
Exactly. That's one move that really does make sense.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then maybe that's Ollie Behrman to Haas.
I think that's probably what would free up that seat there. But then what happens to Joe and Bottas?
I don't know. don't know. Who
Bottas
knows?
back to Mercedes. Go on, my boy.
I liked what they did for Joe.
Oh, it's so nice. I
I
loved
think
it.
they should do that at more races. Like they should have done one for Yuki. That'd have been quite good. I'm just trying to think. Maybe Logan when he first raced at
I think
Miami.
it's up to the event organizers, right? Whether or not they want to like parade the home driver.
No, but it doesn't like. There's no point doing it for Max at the Dutch Grand Prix. Like, there's no point doing it at every race.
No, I
But
think
like,
they should do it more. Like
but
do
they
it
should
for
do it
Max.
more. Like Joe's debut race, like Logan's debut race at an American, like at Miami would have been a
Yeah,
good one.
home race or pretty much home race. Yeah.
Yeah, so
But I'd like to see it done more often. Like,
that's really nice. It's a nice
can you
touch.
imagine, right, them doing something like that at the British Grand Prix with all the British drivers lined up on the end, like at the end of the day, underneath the podium? Unbelievable. That would be such a nice and cool thing to do.
That would be
So,
cool, yeah.
or like obviously in Australia, you'd have Daniel and Oscar like lined up on the grid as well. So like it just would be a nice touch to do.
It adds a little bit more to the show.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what Liberty Media want to do. So but I think it would be a really nice touch to do, and I would like to see it more. But it was really nice to see Joe react like that.
Yeah.
Not that I want to see somebody cry, but it was for the right reasons.
Tears of joy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
I'll tell you
insane.
what I did like from this weekend.
Mm.
Nico beat the 7-time world champion in equal machinery Rosberg. His commentary, I love it.
Apparently, it was really good.
It was really good. He's despite being out, was it 2016? So it's like 8 years now.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He's still so in tune with tires, cars, drivers, pit stop strategy, and he's really a good kind of balance to Crofty with like the hype man kind of thing,
Yeah.
and just bringing that more technical aspect in. It was man, have more Nico, and he also just doesn't give a shit.
No, he doesn't care. No.
he's like I've got enough money, you can fire me, it doesn't matter.
Literally, yeah. Like the guy is so rich, it's insane. But I think that like I saw on X that a lot of people were praising him because he wasn't like giving in to the bullshit like type thing. He was just saying it how it was, and his commentary was very real, which I actually quite appreciate, to be honest with you. So hats off.
That's
to
the insights.
Nico.
That's where you learn about the sport.
Yeah.
Like that. So that was because what was it? He mentioned. Was it? I think Crofty said that Lando like wheel spun off from the sprint race from pole position, and Nico's like, no, he wasn't meant to do that. That's not good. It's like, no, is he not laying down rubber? It's like, no, he messed up the start. And guess what happened? Lewis came and took first position. So I was like, fuck that. So yeah, I really enjoyed Nico. I hope they have him on for more races.
Yeah, I do really like the Monaco-based YouTuber. I think he's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But somebody who I did actually miss on the F1 commentary was David Coulthard. He's usually the one on commentary for F1 TV. But he wasn't at this race. I think he's cut back on the number of races he's doing because it's just so much travel. Like you're just away for such a long amount of time.
So Fernando posted something on Instagram.
Right? Yeah, I saw about the flight times, right? Is that what you're going to mention?
Yeah. So it's like first 5 races, like test and race in Bahrain, 15 hours, Saudi 11, Australia 46 hours.
Yeah.
Japan 40, China 41.
It's insane.
Mad.
Yeah, utterly insane how much travel these guys do.
I know.
And that obviously doesn't include all of the personnel and stuff like that. Like, it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's obviously the edge is taken off if you're all going around in private jets in first class. But even then, like,
it can't be that much fun.
I know. It's like you just get so bored.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Any other highlights from the race from you?
Nah, not really.
Fine.
There's a couple of things.
Oh, okay, sure.
Well, Mercedes are looking at bringing some updates for Miami.
Yeah, so as are McLaren apparently.
That'll be interesting. And there are some proposed changes to the point system.
Yes, there are. I saw this. So
I think
do
it's
you
quite
want to
interesting.
explain what the change would be to anyone who's unaware?
Yes. So right now you get points for the first 10 positions,
Yep.
and it goes 25, 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1. And what they want to do is give points for the first 12 rather than the top 10. And so those in 11th and 12th will get 2 and 1 point each, respectively, which now kind of makes that battle for the top 12 even more of a battle for those midfield teams to get those points.
Can I say something?
I can't really stop you.
I believe that
Okay.
if there are 20 drivers, there should be 10 points positions. If there are 24
You always
drivers,
somehow bring this back to Andretti.
if there are 24 drivers, there should be 12 point scoring positions.
God.
That's all I'm going to say. So, if they're looking at introducing this, Andretti confirmed. That's what I'm talking
Oh my
about.
God.
Yeah.
Not yeah.
What do you mean, not yeah? This is what we should be talking about. We should be talking about the fact that if you want more point scoring positions, introduce more cars and make it 50%. I'm not being funny, but if you're a midfield team, right, you shouldn't be striving for 12th place. You should be wanting to get in the top 10. It's the top 10. It's the bet. You've beaten at least half of the grid. You get a point for it. You shouldn't have to only beat.
Technically, you're not beating half the grid.
Technically, you
Red-
are, but you know.
Red Bull 1-2, Ferrari 1-2,
Yeah.
Mercedes 1-2.
Yeah. Okay. So that's 6.
Right. So you're not really. You're beating half the teams out there.
Exactly. Half the grid.
You're not
Half the
beating half.
cars on the grid. You're
You're
welcome.
not beating
So-
half the drivers.
You know what I mean, okay? So
No,
this
I
is
don't.
my point. Is
Clarify
that
it.
you should have more drivers and cars on the grid, and then I will allow
No,
12
I'm
point
not
scoring
against
positions.
more drivers on the grid.
No, I
all
know
for
you're not.
it.
No.
It's just Andretti just popped up.
But can you imagine also if they did what like F1 Academy do, where they have like the wild card seat? They have a whole wild card team. So they have a whole F1 wild card team, and then they just pull in drivers from wherever.
I think if sprints are going to be like
That would
separate
be
from the-
cool to bring in wild cards in the sprints. Hell yeah.
if that's going to be separate from the main race, that's where you start fucking around with shit.
Yeah, true. That would be nice. But obviously we did have a sprint race as well. How do you think the sprint race went? And do you think that we should carry on with the same format, even though this format is technically new because we did previously have quali, then sprint race, and yeah. So what do you think?
I mean, it was interesting because Max wasn't on pole, so
Hmm.
you know you had that fight for first between Lando and Lewis,
Yeah.
and then you had Fernando coming up there, but then he dropped back, and then there was like a 4-car battle with him and Sainz and Sergio Leclerc, and he made that move down the inside. It was really good, and Max was just like, you know, probably thinking about what his setup was going to be for his online racing,
Yeah.
or like what was this going to be formation for FIFA. So
Yeah.
it was good because Max wasn't P1. Yeah, I just think like sprints are okay, but it's not too different from a main race, so you're not getting anything different. So
Yeah, that's what
They
my
need-
problem is with them.
that's
as
like you
well.
said, that's where they just go a little bit crazy, like, all right, we'll do reverse grids, or we'll do random grids,
Yeah.
or we'll do whatever.
I also had an idea. So with sprint races, right? You know how? Let's be honest. Everyone just uses the same tire. It's always the medium tire, or always
Yeah.
a soft tire, or whatever, right? I had an idea. So you know how they do fastest laps or fastest lap points if you're in the top 10, right? They should introduce that for the sprint, but they should have a fastest lap per tire compound, which could encourage somebody to maybe gamble a little bit and go on hards, or go on mediums, or go on softs. Because if you're Logan Sargent, you could easily gamble on softs and maybe even get a point, even though you finished 17th, purely because you got the fastest lap with a soft tyre. Just to mix things up a teeny tiny bit, it's one championship point to one or two other people who wouldn't already be scoring points. And it might make some people pit and not, and then it might cause incidents. It makes actually people want to pit as well. So it could mix things up a little bit.
I think you do random grids.
All
don't know how they're
random
gonna work
grids, yeah.
You do random grids. You get rid of sprint qualifying, right, to save tires, and you add a mandatory pit stop between lap. So this one between lap 9 and 11, you have to pit. You can pit on 9, 10, or 11, and then just see how that would work. Because okay, do we pit early and do the undercut, or I've got some life in the tires? Do I do an overcut? And you get the chaos of pit stops.
Or do we make the start like Le Mans?
Nah.
So to run from one side of the grid to the other to get in that car.
If it weren't for it being such a complex car, because they got to strap them in.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's a fun idea.
Ugh.
It's a fun idea.
Stop being so safe. No, I'm kidding, please. Yeah, I think that the sprint was interesting, but only because there was weather.
The sprint qualifying was interesting.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the sprint qualifying, which then made the sprint semi-interesting at points, was only because of the weather. Had there not been any weather, it would have been very boring.
Yeah, because it would have just been Max.
Literally, yeah. So, but we do have Miami coming up this weekend, next race weekend, sorry, which is next weekend. Should we look forward to Miami a little bit? Because we won't do a full episode on it now, but it's just important to note it is another sprint race weekend. But F1 Academy's back.
Yeah, it is back.
So there's going to be...
Feels like ages.
I know, because they put the calendars together really weirdly. But it's going to be very interesting, I think, Miami, purely because we're going to have so much different bits and pieces going on, which should be quite interesting, I think, hopefully, maybe. Let's wait and see. But I'm just excited for the F1 Academy girls to get back on track, because that should be pretty good as well.
Yeah, that means we get to have Karina back.
We do. We get to have Karina back, which is awesome, because if you don't know, we are, I believe, one of the only podcasts in the world that does an actual featured episode on F1 Academy, and we will be returning for the 6 races of the entire season. 6 races?
I think so, yeah.
Let's go with 6. But we will be back 6 times during the whole year. And I haven't spoken to Karina about this, but we should also do an episode at the end of the year, which is maybe not awards, because let's be honest, that's our thing. But we should do a little bit of a season review and what we should be doing next season to improve F1 Academy. And thank you, Ash, for confirming that there is 6 races. I thought I was right.
I'll tell you what, for a bonus point,
yeah,
can you tell me what the other... So you said Miami, what the other 5 races are?
So Saudi, Miami, Spain. There's Spain. Then
so Spain, yeah.
Qatar, Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. So there's 2 left.
1 left.
No, there's 2 left.
So I've said Saudi, Spain.
Yeah.
Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Miami, and then there's 1 left.
Yeah,
you said 6 in total, so I've got to name 1 more. I don't know what that last one is. Austria.
No, dude. You named 2, which have happened.
Yeah.
Right? And then you named 2 more, which is Barcelona and Lusail.
Yeah.
And then you named,
Abu Dhabi, yeah. So you said there were 6 races in total.
6 races left.
Oh, 6 races left. Oh, well, that's where I'm getting confused. Okay, so there's 2 more. Sorry, right, okay.
There are 2 more.
So
right so far.
I said Austria, which apparently isn't one.
No.
It's not Silverstone.
No, you're right. That's right. It's not Silverstone.
I feel like it's an odd one. I haven't got it up, by the way. My current Google search on my other monitor is how much does Daniel Ricciardo weigh, which I had to Google for the intro. Where else is it? It's not Spielberg. It's not Silverstone. I'll
give you
Monza?
1 European and 1 flyaway.
Monza and Brazil?
Not Monza, not Brazil.
Where are they then? The Netherlands.
Yeah, Netherlands.
That was it. And
done for it. Yeah, so you got 1 more.
It's not Canada.
No,
it's not Middle East, is it? Is it Middle East?
No, it's not Middle East.
So flyaway. It's not Singapore. It is
Singapore.
Singapore. Yeah, Singapore is my answer. There we go.
Yeah, it's not Singapore. That's my answer.
But anyway, because we're experts on F1 Academy, we are one of the only, I believe, podcasts who actually feature and focus in on F1 Academy. So we will be releasing a special episode at some point next week after with Karina to review everything F1 Academy. So be sure to like and subscribe or follow or check us out on Instagram or wherever on earth you are, or your preferred podcast platform to actually follow along and keep an eye out for that if you're interested in F1 Academy. Because, like I said, the first weekend was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. We had everything. We had a dominant driver who completely wiped the field with her performance. We had a disqualification, which meant a new race winner. We had crashes. We had drama. Unbelievable! Honestly, the weekend had everything. I'm not even trying to take the
crazy
piss.
overtakes.
Great overtakes, yeah. I thought it was great racing. So
It was definitely better than the F1.
It was better than the F1 that weekend, yeah. But so this is what I'm saying. Please do genuinely tune in to F1 Academy because it was actually very good. So please do check your local times and stuff like that for Miami. But of course we will let you all know on our socials and stuff when the episode with Karina comes out. So yeah, we should organise that with her as well. Also, we need to. Doesn't matter if I say this on or off air. We need to send her a thank you present as well for doing this because she doesn't have to at all. It's actually quite nice of her. So yeah. But so looking forward to Miami. I don't really think there's anything else we have to say about China though. Really, to be honest with you, is there?
No, we came back to China. It was all right.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to going back again next year because the calendar has been released for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Which we need to coordinate some stuff for next year as well.
We do.
We'll do that after the recording. But we need to coordinate some stuff. But I think we should just end it there. We've been chatting now for 42 minutes almost. Should we bin it? Should we call it a day?
Yeah, should we just run into the back of it?
Yeah, let's pull a stroll and
go for a stroll.
Yeah, I was going to say crash out, but sure, there we go. Because it sounds like cash out because of Daddy's money. That was the joke there. Anywho, that's our Aston Martin partnership gone. So we can't work with Aston Martin, Sky. Anyone else? I'm ruining sponsorships left, right, and centre. But thank you for everyone.
I know
for
who
listening.
we can work with, Andretti.
Yeah, we. Perfect. And F1 Academy, apparently. So, yeah, awesome. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will be back. When are we back? Next week, I guess?
Yeah, we're back next week to preview Miami.
Yep.
And preview F1 Academy.
We will. So, thank you, everyone, for listening. Please be sure to like, subscribe, follow us on your preferred podcast platform. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.